Rochester Winter Parafest is back, March 25th, 26th, and 27th of 2022. Come say hi to Naked and Afraid celebrities Melanie Elizabeth and Trent Nielsen, Haunted Case Files Jack Kenna, Monster Quest Steve Coles, and more. This event has it all: paranormal investigators, UFO researchers, Bigfoot researchers, and even photo opportunities for the kids with Buddy the Bigfoot. Oh, okay, adults too. Come on down and get a tattoo from Ink Master Tony DeVille. There are psychic gallery and individual readings, as well as radio personalities, authors, jewelry, makeup artists, and so much more. It's only $15 per person, and children under 10 are free. March 25th, 26th, and 27th of 2022. For more information, go to WLFE-DB.com. Yes, Winter Parafest is back. Valley Oak Event Center, Geneseo, New York, next to Denny's.
The Bipolar DM, Jason Cottam. His show talks about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Check us out right here on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, also on WLFE-DB.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. So take a seat, sit back, and get ready for the Bipolar DM.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for tuning into the Bipolar DM podcast. I'm your host, Jason. This is a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with the mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Now, you notice that we're doing a little bit differently as far as equipment-wise with this episode. My computer that I had just gotten crapped out on me, so we're going back to some older equipment that's in the backup. So video is going to be a little bit different than normal. If you want to get a hold of us, you can contact me by email, which is thebipolardm@gmail.com, or you go to my webpage, www.thebipolardm.com. There you'll find previous episodes of my podcast, my blog, as well as resources on indie writing, Dungeons and Dragons, and mental health. Be sure to check us out if you can live on Facebook. You can find us through WLFE-DB Radio Network, or go to WLFE-DB.com, and you can do a search for us there. Find also our other shows that we have going on. We're available on Stream TV under the Variety Unlimited channel, as well as Twitch TV. So it's twitch.tv/TheBipolarDM. We're happy to be also supporters of Safe Space. For those of you that are not familiar with Safe Space, it's a virtual safe spot for you to be able to go to if you're in crisis or having some kind of rough time going on in your life. We are not doctors, we're not psychiatrists or anything like that, but what we are here to do is to listen to you and to help you get through a crisis with resources that we have available. Be sure to check that out at WLFE-DB.com. There's the safe space button. It has much more information about it too. Also, just plug this into the Veteran Podcast Awards are going on right now. The registration is until the end of this month, so July 31st is the last day for registration. And then voting begins on August 7th until the 10th of September 2021, with the winners being announced on October 5th, 2021. So be sure to be a supporter of that. Check out all the military podcasts that we have. And without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guest. Erin is our guest for today. And hello, how are you?
Hello, I am well. How are you today?
Doing very well. Let's go ahead and kind of jump into a little bit about your background, particularly your Dungeons and Dragons background, because I read a little bit about it, and it's very interesting because you're the daughter of a dungeon master / player. Is that correct?
So I am a daughter of someone who played Dungeons and Dragons when I was very much younger and was my first DM, my dad. So that's where I got my first taste of it, which I believe it might have been second edition at that time. And so that's where I started it, and it's progressed from there. Should I keep going, or
Yeah,
is that
ahead.
what? Okay. So after that stint with my dad leading myself, my four other siblings, and my mom on a dungeon crawl until a trap squashed us. And so the campaign ended, but I rediscovered a place to play with through my brother. My brother had a group of friends that played. It's like, can I play? And so I was able to play with him while I was in high school. I think might have been middle school, high school. It was in the middle school, late middle school, early high school that we played for a while. And then later on, I had another break, but I found a group of really good friends at college that we played Dungeons and Dragons for quite a while. And we, since all of us scattered to the winds, as after all of us graduated, we met online and played on Roll20 and Discord. Just was a really good space for us. And then I'm just currently on break from it. But I still love the game.
What's your favorite edition to be playing right now?
My favorite edition, it's currently 5e. I would say for a while, I thought 3.5 was a good one, but I think that's because my brother, that's how I knew Dungeons and Dragons, when I really got into what kind of character I wanted to make. And so that was kind of my go-to for a long time until 5e, and it's like, oh, so many possibilities. I got really excited, especially later on. I got introduced to homebrew. It's like, holy moly, the doors of possibilities have opened.
Yeah, so what is it about the 5e that you do enjoy a lot?
So what I like about the 5e is that it gives a lot of different options to customize. And kind of like the way that I think, one of the first things that I think about is the class monk. I once played a tiefling monk. And with the when you're in the class of monk, you are really strong at unarmed combat. But then later on, as you get to level, I think it's level 3. In level 3, you have like a chance to diverge your path. There's three different paths, at least that I can think of in 5th edition, included in the class description. There's Way of the Open Hand, there is Way of the Elements, and then Ways of the Shadow. And so from there, you can really customize, like, what is my playstyle? Do I like skulking in the back, or do I like being able to really build on the strength that I have in my power attacks? Or do I really want to bring in the elements? Am I earthy? And so I really like how in 5e, in that edition, they offer like different paths you can take. And that's one example of it. I could chatter on, but I don't want to go too far.
No, that's exactly what we want to be talking about is, how 5E's, not only, what it's like playing it, but how has it influenced you as a writer and as an artist?
Oh, that is a whole can of worms that I would be happy to delve into. So with 5E, like I would say for myself as a player, like I just really am in love with the storytelling. And I really like, tell me what's going to happen. Tell me what's going to happen. So as a player, sometimes I don't quite have as much patience with my other players because like for them, it's like a game. And for me, it's like I'm there to hear the story. I'm here to see how things play out. But I am just like any other player, and I love doing really well in combat. But as a writer, like really the 5th edition has helped me think about how can I make my characters more interesting? What is their story? And so I kind of been using kind of the method of how 5E's been crafting the characters, like the characters' backstory, races. I'm currently helping that help me with a series that I'm setting in, you could say, my homebrew world that I'm working on crafting. And so it's really helping me with world building and thinking about what are these characters? Where do they come from? What do they want? How are they going to get there?
Yeah, what's the economic status of lumber in that territory, and how is impacting the Merchants Guild? There's all kinds of stuff when you get into world building. You can really get into the nitty gritty of a lot of stuff and a lot of details when you're doing that.
It's a little overwhelming, but at the same time, it's like a playground for me. I get to make up the rules, but I also have really good guidance by looking at how Dungeons and Dragons themes, the world building, how things work, and how do the characters interact with each other. In the case of the gameplay, it's the players with the DM.
Yeah. Now let's see. Kind of want to jump back to your dad in Dungeons and Dragons, and how was that? I mean, I play with my own kids, so I kind of have an idea from what the dad's perspective is when you're playing with the kids. What was it like playing with your dad? This wacky game called Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I would say like with my dad, he played it a lot with my uncle who unfortunately had passed away recently. And so it was something really that they bonded over. If I were to describe my dad as a DM, he is very much serious. He takes his interactions very seriously. We had graph paper. We would be up at our camp sitting around our long table that would host all of us. He would be on one end with a screen. And then as we're going through the dungeon, he would draw things as we come in. And we had little figures that we would get a chance to like move around. And so he was really teaching us the basics of how to play D&D. That we enjoyed it because it was a game and each of us had interesting characters. My character was a female version of Legolas because I just thought elves and fighting with bow was really awesome at that age.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun kind of having that bonding experience with your parents, especially with something that they enjoy a lot, and then finding out that you enjoy it as well. And I kind of find that it's a great thing to be able to have that, in your memories and stuff like that, and to be able to have that to bring with you into the gaming world, today. Okay. I want to talk about your website. What is the actual website's address?
The website address for where I currently have my mischief is www.waggishwriter. I'll spell it out because it's a little confusing. It's WAGGISHWriter.com. So it's Waggishwriter, which as the address, it's one word all put together, lower cases. I try to make it simple, but the name might be a little complicated for some. But it was just a really fun name. It was a really fun name that I had some creative thinking of how I wanted to name it.
Yeah, waggish writer. What is a waggish writer?
Well, quite honestly, it was something that I came to when I decided I wanted to show my capabilities as a writer by putting my creative works on a blog to share with the world about what I could do. And initially, I wanted whimsical writer or mischief muse, because I would say with me, writing kind of comes in spurts of creativity. I'm a little bit like work on this project, work on that project, a little bit
Mhm.
scattered, kind of like a pixie. Unfortunately, people already did have those names already claimed in it. I was doing a little research. It's like, what would make me different? So it's like, how about I look up the words that were really interesting to me? And I just stumbled upon waggish, which is mischief. It is one of the synonyms of it. And so it's like,
Okay.
waggish writer. I like that.
Yeah, and it's very interesting in how it describes your writing style, because you describe as you having personas, different writing personas. So could you go a little bit into that?
So the way that I describe it, writing personas, is sort of my evolution as a writer. Some of my personas are very well developed. Some of them I'm still building on. So the first persona is author, which it started back with my dungeon master dad. He
Mhm.
woke up one morning from a dream and decided he wanted to write a book. And I happened to have a dream that day and it's like, I want to do that too. And so that's kind of where the writer aspect was born, was like I was just really inspired that my dad was writing a book. And so I decided I wanted to write a book too. And then there's a lot of other personas, but I'll pause for a moment.
Yeah, you have you do artwork, you do poetry, so you really do cover the gambit with your website and your with your artwork though too, which is really a great platform for you to be working from.
Yeah. So the way to say it currently, it's like what was really important for me when I was building this website is I really wanted to show kind of my personality, kind of what I could do, which the logo there with the multiple butterfly wings, like
Hmm.
was something I put together honestly on PowerPoint. But it's like I really wanted to show like I really wanted to like make it homemade, make it in a way
Hmm.
that it was really what I have. And so I would say I'm not quite I am a great admirer of art. I would say I'm not a strong artist, but I really love seeing other people's creative work. But I love photography. And so some of the pictures that you see on there are my own, unless I give credit to who originally created them.
Okay, great. Now, how has your artwork and all this helped you mentally?
I would say it gives me something. It, I would say, as a person, I do sometimes struggle with stress and pressure of like
Hmm.
needing to succeed, needing to do well, whether it is in my professional career or my creativeness. As I describe myself, I'm someone who a little bit of like, I have a hard time focusing on some things. And the way that having my writing is sort of this place that I just take it from what I have in my brain to paper. Some days it's like really effortless for me, and I just write and write and write, and I could write for hours. I've actually done that. Is sat down, had an idea, and just kind of kept going with it. And it's sort of like it's it's an outlet that's a healthy one. It helps me get out of my head, or at least goes into another character's head and just sort of exploring how they feel.
Yeah, that's a really great thing that I found also is having that looking at things from a different person's perspective, and to be able to get out of your own head and your own space and look at problems that you have facing you from a different perspective altogether. Great in Dungeons and Dragons, I found, because you're faced with all kinds of different problems and puzzles and challenges, and the chance to play a character different from yourself and how they would react to how you would react to something, but how they would is a lot of fun.
Yes. Kind of the character that I think about that I really got out of my comfort zone is I created a drow barbarian that went off to the high seas and had a few adventures before she felt the need to return home. So she exited the campaign for a bit. But she was probably the most interesting because she's like a very goes into the action and very like forward. And I'm very much like a little shyer. I'm more the healer or long range. Ranger is probably my favorite class.
Okay. So how does then how would you describe the majority of the players that you have played as characters? Would they reflect you more, or are they more the opposite of who you are?
I would say for the most part, I do kind of make characters that are closer to me because I do love to imagine myself, what would I do in this situation? I might just tweak it a little bit to make them a little braver. Like, I'm not a great archer, but it would be really cool.
Yeah.
So I draw aspects of it and I try to highlight kind of the best things of it or highlight the things that I wish I was good at.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break for a commercial, and then we're going to pick this up in just a minute.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
Well, and welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking with Erin there about her background with Dungeons and Dragons in writing and all things kind of that encompasses that. Now, with the pandemic had happened, how did that? What kind of impact did that have on you as far as socially and playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that? How did the pandemic have an effect upon you?
So at the time of the pandemic, I had been working at a coffee shop. I was a barista. And so it really hit me hard. Because of health reasons, we had to go into shutdown and I found myself with a lot of time. It's like, I need to be doing something. And so it's like, I had a lot of time on my hands. And I would say that's where I started thinking about like, I really want to create. I really want to build something. And so that's kind of how Waggish Writer actually came to be is for a long time, I've been thinking about like, I want to get my writing out there. I want to get my writing out there. I want to get my writing out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. And then, versus playing virtual tabletop versus in player, what do you think do you prefer more, the in player or the virtual tabletop?
For me, that's a really hard question. I I have to say the virtual does offer a lot of options about it. It also lets me connect with people I haven't connected with a long time. And also you can really have cool characters and have really cool maps. One of the things that I've played around a little bit is a program called Incarnate, where you can make maps and put it into Roll20, which I thought was pretty cool. But there is something to be said about the in-person games, because I just love being able to see the miniatures and moving them about the play. There's just something so amazing to know that that's my character. My character's moving, and you're there with everyone.
Yeah, and I have to agree on that one there, because I mean I've been able to play with people that I would never have the opportunity to play with online gaming. I played with people in Australia. I played with people in Germany. All over the place. And so those are the things that, virtual tabletops has offered that you can't get outside of going to a convention like in San Diego or some big place like that. You're not going to get at a normal convention or an in-person playing Dungeons and Dragons. And so there are definitely pluses and minuses to both of them. And I have to say that, there's the pluses for the virtual tabletop is so easy to organize, because you don't have to commute, you don't have to get the space together, you don't have to clean up your apartment or anything like that. So you have all those great things going for you. But at the same time, with the personal one in person, you get more. I'd say it's easier to get more of that social aspect out of it. I mean, you can do it with virtual. You just got to work at it. You got to do a lot of tips and tricks and stuff like that to work at it. But I would have to say that I do miss the in-person one the most.
Agreed.
Well, sorry, I'm looking through my questions to see what haven't I asked yet. So I kind of got through some of it. I did want to talk about some of your particular writings, though. I was interested in that. As an author, what's your genre of writing? Like, what is it that you particularly like writing about?
Oh, I would say that my first love and forever will be is fantasy. I read Lords of the Ring when I was very young. I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and
Wow.
I would try to get my work done really quick to either one, read a book, or I would write. And one of the books I would read was The Lords of the Ring, which I was probably too young to really appreciate it. But when Peter Jackson showed it, it's like, oh, that's what it. I'll admit Peter Jackson's a little bit better than the book, but I would say that fantasy is my favorite. But I have found with writing is that there's also really beauty about the reporting, the writing the articles for things that happen that you don't think are real, but they're real, and that's what makes them more special. So I really enjoy my report, the times that I get to tell stories that are real, and so I really like that. It's sort of this follow-up. It's like I like finding out what stories are there, and I like talking about them.
Okay. And well, I have to say that this is about as much as I got for today's interview. I'm coming back from a trip, so not as prepared as I'd like to, but I really liked having you on and discussing Waggish Writer and what you're doing, and also what Dungeons and Dragons and how it has impacted your life. And so I want to thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And if I have more things to share, like I would be happy to come again if it fits with what you're going. I would be happy to visit again because this is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, I enjoyed it too. So thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put you in the back for real quick and tie this up, and then we'll close up after that. Okay.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Oops. All right. Like I said, I'm sorry about the equipment and the quality of today's show, just because I'm coming back from coming back from vacation, and it's kind of got caught off guard with my equipment failure and with the laptop crapping out on me. So, but I want to thank you all for showing up and for tuning in there. Did want to remind everybody that we do have a Patreon account as well. So if you're interested in supporting my Patreon, that's patreon.com/bipolardm. We have goodies available at each support tier. This goes directly towards to the show and helping us produce the show and everything we got going on. Yep, it happens. So I want to thank everybody that's been here and been showing up for us. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, everybody, take your meds.
Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week, 7 p.m. Saturdays on WLFE-DV.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. WLFE Digital Broadcast Network is on TV. You can watch all of our shows on WLFE-DB.com. Check out our channels: Paranormal View for all of your paranormal type shows, LGBTQ Friends for all of our LGBTQ shows, Variety Unlimited for all other shows. It runs 24/7 right on WLFE-DV.com. You'll even catch the lives, all in one place. Never miss an episode, past or future. WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.